One of the most massive blocks to achieving your desired reality is the phenomena of imposter syndrome. This syndrome prevents people from ever actualizing their desires. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the hermetic laws of the universe to cancel out imposter syndrome and start shifting your reality for the better. Let's get into it. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is the inability to believe that you deserve the achievements you have legitimately through your own merit, your own hard work, your own research, your own life experience. And this makes people basically feel like a fraud. And this doesn't only have to do with achievements. Imposter syndrome makes people stop themselves from achieving anything because they're worried people are going to tell them they're not qualified, they're frauds, they're this, they're that, they're that, they're this. Now, on a hermetic level, I'm going to break down imposter syndrome and I'm going to teach you how to cancel it out so you can actually start shifting your reality. So there are three elements to this imposter syndrome phenomena that you need to understand. So the first one has to do with the law of polarity in hermetic law. My favorite law is the easiest to understand. Okay, there is no light without dark. There is no hot without cold. There is no soft without hard. There is no light without heavy. Basically opposites. But what you need to understand about polarity is that these opposites are on a spectrum. And the furthest parts of those spectrum end up doing the same thing. They end up causing the same things to happen. So let's say you're in a room full of light. You can't see. If you're in a room full of darkness, you also can't see. If you're in the maximum levels of heat fathomable to man, you're gonna disappear into a crisp instantaneously. If you are in the maximum levels of frost and cold, you are going to freeze instantaneously. Both result in bye-bye. So you understand, at the furthest spectrums, the same things happen. So you need to understand these opposites have a modulation between them. Now with imposter syndrome, the first level of polarity you're dealing with is fear. Okay, so you have a polarized state of fear. What is the opposite of fear? Courage. Now, if you look at David R. Hawkins' scale of consciousness, things really start to happen and start manifesting and life starts shifting when you reach courage. Now, when people think about courage, they think about having to do like these brave feats, like stepping in the boxing ring or saving someone's life or something like that. No, courage is little things. Courage is speaking to somebody you haven't spoken to before. Courage is shooting your first YouTube video and putting it out into the world. These are elements of courage. These are things that will start to shift your reality. The problem is you have a polarized state of fear. What is the energy that modulates between fear and courage? All it is faith. There is a dial of faith between fear and courage. Okay? The word faith has its etymological origins in the word fides in Latin, which means confidence.
The way you said the word, it made me think of fetus, and I'm like, the potential, the growth.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Fetus. Yeah, true. It sounds quite similar. So you have more confidence in the polarized state of fear than you have in the state of courage. And what you need to understand is it's the same energy between those things. You are literally just using the energy of confidence in fear instead of courage. It takes you the same energy to say, I can't do something as it does to say, I can do it. You understand? So what you need to do is flip that fear element over to the courage side. Now, what a lot of people would think to do is like, okay, I'm super scared. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then they need to become some mega courageous individual. I'm doing everything. That's not really the case because remember, like I said, at the furthest points of the spectrum, bad stuff happen. So if you're super fearful, you're just not going to do anything. You're just going to be riddled with anxiety. You're going to be trapped in your house. Even you might be just trapped in your room. You will have the maximum levels of fear. You will not go outside. You won't do anything. Maximum levels of courage. Now you're just going to start making ridiculous decisions. You're going to step in traffic because you have so much courage. No car will hit me. I have courage. The car will get destroyed when it touches me. both sides of those things don't end in a good way. So what you need to do is actually get measured. This is the Hermetic way, the middle way, the straight and narrow. You need to balance these two perceptions, and you need to get to a point where you're not as emotionally charged about either side. So you understand there are some drawbacks to the fear of whatever it is you're afraid of or whatever it is you have imposter syndrome about, and there are some benefits to the courage of it. So if I put out a YouTube video, for instance, there's the potential that people have weird things to say, that it doesn't get seen, that people think I'm not qualified to talk about whatever. On the other side, there's the chance that it does get seen. There's a chance that people do support me and that people understand what I'm saying and learn from it. So what you need to do is balance out these two perceptions. And when you balance them out, because there is no good without bad, if you find something bad, there must be something good to follow it. The law of polarity states that. Boom. Now you start to cancel out your charges and you care less about it. So you just end up doing the thing you're supposed to do, and you're not as emotionally charged about it. The way you manifest is when you become far less emotionally charged about things. I can pick up this remote instantaneously, manifest this in my hand, okay? Because I'm not emotionally charged about it. Now, I know you've seen in my other videos, I've talked about emotional charge beliefs to bring you to your manifestation, but it's a different conversation, okay? Two things can be true at the same time. So you got to move fear to courage. You got to cancel out those charges.
Because as you talk about that, like, it's bringing up the image of like the Fool's card, which is basically like the first card in the deck. It's the 0. Like, a lot of people think, oh, it's the Fool, they're stupid, ha 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 ha. But in actuality, it's talking about the beginning of a journey and like having faith and taking that step forward. It sounds very much like the reverse and the uprighting process of the Fool's journey.
That's so true.
Which is technically the whole tarot deck, but that's another story.
For all you tarot people out there, y'all just got some game. So the second thing that you're dealing with when you're dealing with imposter syndrome is doubt. So you doubt that you have the ability to talk about certain things. You doubt that you're qualified in regards to certain things. You doubt that people will care. You doubt that people will see you. You doubt that this will end in any sort of good way. Okay? So what's the opposite side of doubt? Certainty. Okay? So you have doubt and you have certainty. And what is the modulating energy between those things? Conviction. So it's very similar to fear. It's very similar to fear and courage, except that's faith, right? You have faith in fear. Now, when you're talking about doubt and certainty, you have a level of conviction. You have a conviction in thinking that bad things are going to happen. You're like, I'm going to do this and this bad thing is going to happen and that bad thing's going to happen. And it's all just going to get ruined. Now, there are some people who are overly certain. Like, they're so certain that they mess up things for themselves when they get called out on things they were so certain about. And if you saw my recent Billy Carson video, I talk about that with the law of rhythm, because he spoke with such certainty about being an expert in certain things, and then somebody comes along who knows more. And here's what you have to understand about certainty. A lot of people in the manifestation space will tell you to be certain about things. Okay? Now, I understand this, but I believe in the Hermetic teachings, right? Which involves a measured mind. If you are overly certain about something, there is going to be something that comes along to humble you, because if you are overly certain about something, you have the chance of ending up in Hermetic narcissism, which I have talked about on this channel. You end up getting in a pride vector if you are overly certain. Like, oh yeah, I'm the guy for this. Nobody else in the world is better at me than this. Somebody is going to come along who is better at it than you, and they're going to make you look dumb. So just be careful about that. Like I said before, you do not want to end up on the furthest sides of the spectrum. If you have the maximum levels of doubt, you will never leave your house and you will never do anything to change your life ever. If you have the maximum levels of certainty, yeah, things are going to happen, but then you're going to get made to look foolish later on down the road. So be careful. So what you want to do is take this conviction element and move it once again to the middle, right? And understand, yeah, I have some doubts. Yeah, I have some certainties. Let me balance them out, boom, and get to a centered state and present what I need to present, or do what I need to do. So that's a law of polarity at work within imposter syndrome. Now, what you got to remember too is there is a physical realm element to this. You don't want to pretend to be a doctor. You know what I mean? You don't want to pretend like you know about health and stuff if you have no idea about it. Now, here's the thing. I know people who are not certified doctors who have done tremendous things for people's health, myself included. Okay, I've dealt with somebody who wasn't a doctor. They fixed my gut health. No doctors could tell me what to do. Okay, but they have experience of assisting people. So there is a real world element to this. But that doesn't mean that you need to be the foremost expert in the world on a particular topic. You know a certain level, you teach at that level, you speak at that level, you build achievements at that level until you rise to the next level, and you just teach the levels beneath you. You understand? So there's one more element to do with this. One more element to do with this imposter syndrome stuff. And this is the most devious one and the most dangerous, because it's kind of easy to understand the polarity aspects. It's easy to understand. You got to weigh up the pros and the cons, get to a middle state, boom. But here's the biggest problem. You care too much about other people's perceptions. You care too much about what other people think and what other people are going to say. And I'm here to tell you this. People care far less about you and your problems than they care about their own problems. And I'll give you an example of this. I wish we still had the video of this, but I don't know where that phone is. It'd be good to put it on the screen. But I once dealt with an improvisation coach, right? And he said, Seth, you care too much about what people think of you. You're not going to be able to speak well and talk off the cuff and all this stuff if you care too much. I said, okay, well, what do I do about this? He said, go to a place where a lot of people are and lay down on the floor for 5 minutes. I said, yo, are you crazy? He said, yeah, go to the mall and lay on the floor for 5 minutes.
I have to add some context. He's very much a clean person, okay? So this is like the one thing he would never even want to touch the floor with anything bare of his, like. Yeah, sorry, continue.
So he told me, lay on the floor in the mall for 5 minutes and see what happens. I said, are you crazy? They're going to call security. People are going to look at me weird. People are going to take videos. They're going to wonder if I'm crazy or okay. I'm going to end up on the news.
You're a black man.
Yeah, like I'm going to end up on the news. A crazy black man is in the mall laying on the floor. Like, I was like, this is insane. There's no way I'm doing this. He's like, do it or we can't continue. I was like, oh my gosh. So what did we do? We went to the mall and I laid down on the floor for 5 minutes. And she took a video of it, but she hid over in a corner so it didn't look like, oh, they're just doing a video, you know? So I'm over here laying on the floor, waiting for something to happen. What happened? Security did not get called. Nobody said anything to me. Literally, nothing happened. I wasn't on the news. No one said nothing. No one took a video. Nothing happened.
Except for me.
Yeah. And then I realized people really only business about their own thing. Their own things that they have going on. They couldn't care less that some guy is laying on the floor in the mall. He could be dying.
They're literally like, how do I get around him?
Exactly. How do I get around him? No one said or did anything. Okay? And that showed me, wow, people really only business about themselves. So what you got to understand is that you don't need to worry about people's perceptions. They don't care. They really don't care.
And if they do care, it encourages your engagement and gives you good push and reach.
Yes, yes. So this is something very, very important that you need to understand. You cannot allow other people to dictate who you are. What do I mean by this? So when I was 15 years old is when I started making music. I started making rap music, right? And I was in art class one day and we're all sat around this big table for art or whatever. I'm with my group. And we decide to start telling each other what we want to be when we get older. So, you know, one girl's like, I want to be a vet, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a marine biologist. Get to me. Before I even get to speak, some girl cuts me off. She's like, well, you're just a wannabe rapper. And I was like, all right, next. I let the next person talk. But that bothered me, you know? And I was like, now that I'm older, I'm like, Who determines this? Who determines that you are a rapper? Okay? Who determines this? Do you need a certain amount of songs out? Do you need a certain amount of streams? Do you need to have done a certain amount of shows? Do you need to dress a certain way? Who determines this? You determine it. Okay? You determine who you are. That is your creative, God-given power, the ability to create your reality and create who you are. It's not up to them. You understand? So when did I become a rapper? When I got a certain amount of streams, when I put out a certain amount of music, when I got over 1 million streams? When? When is this determined? Some people put out one song, get tons of streams, do big shows. Oh, they're rappers now? They're artists now? Who is to determine this? If you want to make stuff on YouTube and you're a YouTuber, who determines you're a YouTuber? You determine it, not them. You care too much about what other people's minds have to say about you. You care too much about what other people think about you. You care too much about what other people say about you. They do not dictate who you are. You need to understand this, okay? Because it will influence your frequency. You will let other people mess with your frequency. You will let other people dictate who you are to be in life. And you will think about them all the time. And what you think about and emotionally believe in causes your frequency to occur, and your frequency dictates your reality. So you need to stop businessing about these people. Now, I'm a measured man. Remember this. I'm a measured individual. So sometimes you're going to get comments or people are going to say certain things to you, and it's designed for you to listen and adjust. Okay, there's sometimes I get some comments and I'm like, well, that's a good point. All right. To listen and adjust. But at the end of the day, you're going to do your own thing because you determine who you are. And that's how you crush imposter syndrome. Remember that you create your identity. You create who you are. Especially if it's things that are more subjective. If you got to be a doctor, you got to be a doctor. Let's be nuanced. Let's not be foolish here, okay? You have intelligence. I know you understand this. You have intelligence. But don't let other people dictate your life.
Yeah, be your own Adam.
Be your own Adam. Yeah. Dictate your life. You determine who you are. If you're doing the thing, you are the person. If you want to be an artist, you make music, you're an artist. You want to be a YouTuber, you make YouTube videos, you're a YouTuber. You want to coach people in fitness, you got fit, you help people get fit, you're a fitness coach. You determine who you are. Nobody else. And with that being said, I'll see y'all next time. From me and wifey, peace.